Good afternoon. I'm seated at the Charles Haddon Spurgeon chair in my office at the Eden Chapel Baptist Church today. It's Wednesday, and I'm getting ready to speak in a few minutes to our congregation. But before I do, I want to spend a little bit of time with you and talk about chapter 3 of, well, our textbook. Israel looks at the beginnings. As a matter of fact, we'll be studying the book of Genesis in this chapter, and it is a lot to chew upon. Genesis basically divides into two portions. The first is what I like to call the primeval complex or the primeval narrative from about Genesis chapter 1 through Genesis 11. Actually, the last few verses of 11 are usually paired in with the second half of Genesis called the patriarchal or the ancestral complex or ancestral narrative and runs through the end of the book in chapter 50. But hey, let's just make it easy. Chapters 1 through 11, the primeval complex, chapters 12 through 50, the patriarchal complex. What's a few verses among friends, anyway? Each section has a large cast of characters. In the first section, you're going to meet, well, God, who in Genesis 1:1 is introduced to us. Bereshith Barak Elohim. In the beginning, God created. Elohim is the common name used for God throughout much of the Old Testament. In chapter 2, we will, in your English translation, you'll usually read Lord God. And that second descriptor that is added is that covenant name of God. It is the tetragrammaton, the YHWH, the personal name of God. And it is often pronounced by folks as Yahweh or Jehovah. The truth is that it was so sacred and holy to the Hebrews that they did not pronounce the name at all. They would refer to it as simply the name, or they would refer to it by using the Hebrew word Adonai for Lord. So we meet God right up front, and then we meet Adam and Eve, their sons, Cain and Abel, and a whole other cast of characters, notable of whom is Noah and his family. And then in chapter 11, at the end, we meet a guy named Abram, who is going to go through a name change. He later will be called Abraham. And chapter 12 picks up the story of Abraham. And we move from creation through that primeval time where that explains how the world came to be, how peoples and nations rose, the difference in languages and cultures, and how people became spread out in the ancient Near East. And then it introduces us to the tribal heritage of Israel in the patriarchal complex, chapters 12 through 50. We'll meet Abraham and then his son Isaac, and his, Isaac has two sons that we'll meet, both Esau and Jacob, but Jacob is the one who will carry on the story. Jacob also goes through a name change and will later be known as Israel. And then we will meet his 12 sons, 12 tribes of Israel. Hey, that's where that comes from. And then particularly we'll focus the last of Genesis on one of Israel's sons, a guy named Joseph. It's a great book, and I would urge you not just to read your textbook, but to begin reading through the book of Genesis. You'll find some cool stuff there, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot. I love interacting around Genesis, and we'll do that. And hopefully, if you have comments and questions, we can share those on the discussion board, feel free to do that. You're also welcome to call me or text me or email me, and I'll be glad to try to respond as much as I can. I want you to know that I think you're on an exciting adventure of discovery, and I look forward to uh, what you're going to find as you interact with your textbook, interact with the biblical text of Genesis, and then as we discuss together. That's where the learning will uh, really begin and begin to come together. And I'm excited both for you and for me. I look forward to talking with you next time. Take care. And Old Testament scholars, shalom.